The dying star's iridescent corona cast a shifting tapestry of light across the high domed chamber. The council platform floated, ringed by tiers of seats carved from pale coral metal that gleamed faintly against the void beyond. Through transparent walls, the star's last flickering flares made distant spires of debris dance like ghosts. The assembled delegates stood in hushed awe at the spectacle, but none dared draw eyes from the dais, where the debate's time had come. A hush fell when the moderator, a svelte, many-limbed empress from the Thari host, tapped a glowing staff. Esteemed delegates, we convene to deliberate the greatest known species in 3 dimensions: power, cognition, fear. You have your ballots. Speak if you choose. Her voice vibrated on multiple frequencies. Translators rendered it elegantly in all tongues. One by one, the representatives rose. The Volcron warlord massive, plated in black chitin, roared that strength must be first. His voice rattled the chamber. Some smaller delegates shifted nervously. Unsurprisingly, votes coalesced. For raw physical force, Volcran. Then for intelligence. The Marith scholars, pale and glinting-eyed, argued that patterns, self-modifying algorithms, and memory density placed them at the apex. For psychological warfare, the slim, shifting Dazari delegates made their case in whispers, showing simulations of entire species broken by guilt, despair, and fear. Most votes went to them. When results streamed on the hollow ring overhead, they matched expectations. The moderator nodded. Then we come to fear. Which species do you name, that even your bravest dread? Murmurs flowed around the chamber. Some named the Voidborn Kings ancient predators from the spaces between galaxies. Others named the Sithray, whose psionic bleed could shatter minds. One delegate from the Lurky claimed the Infernate Leviathan from the Fringe, but no name yet commanded a consensus. Then General Vothranik of the Kagran Empire rose. He was broad, armored, 4-limbed, though built for command more than brute strength. His gray-veined mandible ridges spoke of age and long campaigns. He leaned forward, voice low but carrying across the chamber. My vote is for humans from the Spiral Galaxy, you call GNZ 212. A ripple of confusion, even laughter, broke out. Humans from another galaxy? That was unheard of. The counselors exchanged glances, hunched Eldrin scribes, hovering psychasters, armored legion lords. The laughter grew polite, amused. Vothranak let them laugh a moment. The light from the star salted his visage. You might laugh now, he said, but you do not know terror until you fought humans fighting for belief. Silence crystallized. The chamber's edge flickered with starlight, and even the volatile atmosphere of the meeting felt contained. He began, In one campaign, we sent our 7th Legion into the Raalpi Nebula to seize a node station humans and allied species used. We anticipated strong defense mines, plasma walls, drones. What we did not expect was humans charging through bare corridors while shields failed, bodies singed and arms broken, to relay bombs into vital junctions. One human, Engineer Rin Hall, detected a breach in the reactor's containment wall seconds before meltdown. He placed his own bulkhead pack against it, sealing the breach manually while warning others to flee. He died soon after, lungs scorched, yet that act saved 4 ships full of lives he never knew. Some delegates drew in breath, others remained impassive. Vothranak continued. Another was Captain Mara Jensen, caught by enemy interrogators. They tortured her for hours, she lost digits, suffered lung punctures, fractured ribs. Yet in her final message, she whispered a joke, not to mock them, but to hearten her crew listening in. Her will broke their will. The interrogators confessed they'd lost control when she laughed. He paused. These are not anomalies. Humans endure wounds that should kill them. They innovate mid-battle. They adjust to chaos faster than any algorithm. Still, skepticism hung. A Dazari counselor stood and requested projection of a hologram. With a flick, a standard human figure appeared. Average height, pale skin, lean limbs, soft muscle, not imposing at all. The figure stood upright, arms at side, posture unthreatening. Laughter broke out again. Soft bones, upright and fragile. No claws, no psionic glow, no towering bulk. Vothronic's eyes flicked around. He did not argue. Then he said quietly, "I can call one. He is nearby, on a classified mission in the Tarvos Drift." Murmurs erupted. The Thari moderator's staff glowed uncertainly. Some delegates muttered about protocol breaches. Another interjected, "We cannot summon an operative in meeting without authorization." Before more could unfold, a portal behind the dais shimmered. The ripple of light snared attention. Out stepped a man. He wore a dark, tactical suit, nondescript except in its sleekness and silent form. No insignia, no banners. His hair was dark, cropped, his face was calm, his stride measured. He did not flare power or demand attention, yet every eye turned to him. The weirdness of scale struck. Here was that soft, unimpressive human in the flesh. He walked to the main table, placed a sealed case before the moderator, then turned to the counselors. His voice was level. "You wanted to meet a human. I brought case files on a recent joint operation. You may find casualty ratios interesting." He did not add flourish. He did not tower. He simply stood. The hollow ring paused. The delegates leaned forward, curiosity blazing. As projections opened from the case, the first file displayed a mission cassette, Operation Fire Harbinger. Subhead, Allied extraction from Ankaris Delta. One slide, Squad was ambushed. Human operator Chen administered self-tourniquets, severing tissue to stop hemorrhage, mid-mission, then continued to lead them out. Survived with major nerve damage in arm, now undergoing reconstructive surgery. Extraction occurred 72 hours later. Next slide. Heavy plasma blast inflicted 68% full-thickness burns across torso. Human Lieutenant Mira Salin managed immediate field cooling. Graft placement from donor tissue aboard ship, survived to testify on the mission's success. Another. Casualty ratio. Allied forces lost 14, humans lost 9. Objective achieved. Enemy forces destroyed 4 major installations. Counselors murmured. The Marath scribes flicked fingers, adjusting mental calculators. Some turned pale. The Dazari who had mocked stepped slowly back from his seat. One bulky Volcran paused mid-applause, fists clenching. After a moment, an elder diplomat, tall and crowned with silver tendrils, rose, her tone quiet. "And your people, do they fight like this always?" Captain Elias Moore closed the last file. He nodded slightly. "No, only when we have to, but when we do, we don't stop." The hush deepened. Delegates stared. The hologram of that soft human earlier seemed a cruel joke now. Vothronic leaned back, arms crossed. The dying star's corona flickered overhead. "Now you understand why I said what I said." In that orbiting chamber, among 50 civilizations, the word human changed in tone, no longer a curiosity, but a name that carried weight, caution, and respect. A measured tension now hovered in the falling star chamber, like the moment before a detonation. The laughter had long since died. Counselors sat straighter, some whispering into discreet comm sleeves, others glaring at their aides as if they'd been left uninformed about a new and critical threat. Captain Elias Moore didn't sit, he simply waited. The case remained open on the dais, casting flickering displays upward. A Kithari archivist leaned forward and gently rotated the interface. She squinted at one datapad labeled Operation Sable Ward. Her long, translucent fingers trembled slightly as the opening summary unrolled. Preliminary scans indicate a biological weapon had contaminated a civilian moon-based species, NR. Inhabited population, 1,402. Detonation of fail-safe devices scheduled to prevent spread. One human operative entered manually and performed extraction of 12 uninfected individuals from deep quarantine using a faulty evac frame. Sustained oxygen deprivation, multiple broken ribs, partial lung collapse. Survived. Recovered after 8 weeks of thoracic stabilization and respiratory therapy. Later, redeployed. A Draxon brute scoffed, tone gruff. "No being returns to duty after thoracic collapse in 8 weeks. Elias didn't flinch. "We don't always bounce back, but when it's worth it, we do the work. Painkillers, breathing, retraining, weeks in a vacuum chamber to re-expand lung function. Ask the medics on Tolvar 3. The Draxon shifted uncomfortably, folding his massive arms. More delegates leaned in as the files deepened in complexity. A Marzek technopath, looking like a bundle of animated root systems, clicked a few glyphs. A new file opened. Operation Glass Crown. Summary. Planetary collapse scenario. Human detachment entered a gravitational anomaly to divert a descending orbital platform threatening millions. All power was lost inside the distortion field. Rescue was deemed impossible. Human team reprogrammed an emergency propulsion unit into a deadweight slingshot using raw Newtonian momentum. Time inside anomaly, 16 hours. Injuries: frostbite, nerve shock, cranial bruising from internal helmet pressure failure. Survivors: 3 of 7. 3 survived this? Asked a Vrelian tactician, eyes narrow. Elias inclined his head. One's still learning how to walk again, one's retired. The third, she's leading a training unit. The chamber turned quiet again, not in awe, but in growing discomfort. These weren't monsters, these weren't warriors bred in cryovats or spawned from planet-cracking dynasties. These were volunteers. Specialists. People. One screen played a decrypted recording, humans advancing under orbital bombardment. Dust and static made the visuals gritty. One soldier screamed into a broken comm. "We hold the line here. If they break through us, they get the medevac. So, if I go down, don't stop. Stack my body and climb higher." Another image. A human on a stretcher, face burned, lips cracking. When a medic asked if he needed sedation, the man grinned through bleeding gums and said, "Only if you've got whiskey." A long silence followed. "I don't understand," whispered the delegate from the Nilthor Combine. "They don't even heal efficiently. Their physiology is vulnerable." Elias nodded. "That's true. Our bones break, our organs rupture. But we learn how to set the bone, how to train the muscle around the scar. We know pain, we're taught to live with it, not fear it." He looked out over the chamber, gaze even. "Do you know what it means to teach your soldiers that not every wound needs to be fatal? That it's okay to cry out, to fall, to be lifted by someone else?" Several delegates looked away. One Thari aide whispered something, shaken. A new voice spoke calm and skeptical. "Yet you win? Against Volcran war marchers? Against Dazari neuroflame tactics?" It was the Eshel diplomat. Her people communicated via pheromone, but her translator chip gave her a clean monotone. "I do not believe this is sustainable." Elias gave a slow nod. "That's fair. Honestly, we don't win because we're stronger or smarter. Most of the time, we shouldn't win. But when everything fails, we don't stop. Not because we're fearless, but because we know what we're protecting, and we choose to move anyway." The K-Grand General rose behind him, voice again carrying weight. "You think I'm exaggerating. But I have fought beside humans. I have seen them drag wounded comrades through plasma fire. I have seen them tape shattered limbs to their sides so they could keep firing." He looked at Elias. "You were in the Tirvan corridor." Elias didn't move. "I was." "Tell them what happened on day 6. A pause. Elias took a breath. The memory clearly hurt. "Our platoon was down to 12. Most of our evac had been intercepted. I had 3 bullets left, a cracked femur, and internal bleeding. No medics. We built a stretcher from vent pipe and tarp. I couldn't walk, so Sergeant Branson carried me. 10 clicks." Vothranok added, "Branson had suffered a punctured liver 2 hours prior. His own blood was leaking into his gut." Elias nodded. "He died after we made it back." Several counselors looked physically ill. The Dazari emissary, once smug, slowly shut down his datapad. "And you came back from that?" someone asked. "I spent 5 months recovering. Pins in the femur, reconditioning for balance. Still have occasional tremors from the blood loss. But I wasn't done." A Marath analyst leaned forward. "You shouldn't be able to function in high-stress environments after such trauma." Elias shrugged. "We learn to work with trauma. It doesn't vanish, but we move around it." A display floated into view, a quote from one of the medical logs. "Human patient resumed training 22 weeks post-multi-organ failure. Shows signs of night terrors, hypersensitivity to noise, mild emotional dysregulation, Deemed combat ready. No one laughed. No one blinked. Vothranik said quietly, "They're not built for war, but they make war adjust to them." The chamber remained deathly silent. The only sound was the soft hum of the dying star beyond the dome. A Velen archivist who had been recording the session looked at his logs. He cleared his throat. "Should we revise the fear vote?" The moderator rose from her perch slowly. She seemed older now. "I believe that question has already answered itself." There was no ceremony, just quiet consensus. Holographic glyphs flickered, votes shifted, and beside Volcran and Ma'areth and Dazari, a new name rose for fear. Human. And beside it, no laughter. Only quiet respect. The council reconvened in uneasy quiet. The prior thunder of voices had evaporated. What lingered now was not just shock, but recalibration. Several species who had prided themselves on their dominance, either in battle or cunning, found their assumptions cracked like a hull under pressure. It wasn't the strength that unsettled them, nor the tactics. It was the very concept that something as visibly breakable as a human could not be stopped. Elias Moore remained standing beside the still open case. He hadn't requested a seat, nor had anyone dared offer him one. It seemed wrong, somehow as if seating him would invite something unpredictable into their carefully measured deliberations. But unpredictability was precisely the point. "May I speak candidly?" Elias asked, voice even. The Thari moderator, still faintly luminous, gave a respectful nod. Elias adjusted the holo controls and opened a new log. This time, no visual feeds, only raw medical data, diagnostics, recovery timetables, and field evaluations. A few counselors blinked at the sea of readouts. "These aren't war records, they're healing records." One panel expanded. Patient, Lieutenant Daniel Kess. Injury, compound fracture to tibia, partial delamination of cartilage in right knee, lacerated femoral artery. Projected recovery, 8 months post-op, 6 weeks of external fixation, 12 weeks of hydrotherapy. Progressive weight-bearing introduced after 14 weeks, back on active duty after 33 weeks. Notes: patient requested resumption of sniper certification. Left kneeling compromised. Developed alternate prone firing protocol. Scored 97% accuracy at 1,200 meters. The Drac ambassador, who had dismissed humans earlier, leaned forward. This level of damage, and he volunteered to return? Elias didn't smile. He asked to go back because he had a younger sibling on a colony transport 2 sectors from the next campaign. He didn't say it aloud, but we knew. Another chart. A female patient this time. Ensign Nadia Turrell. Injury. Left clavicle fracture, 3 ribs cracked, mild spinal shock, abdominal lacerations from hull shrapnel. Time to surgery, 41 minutes. Total recovery, 18 weeks before baseline function, another 10 before combat-ready status restored. Post-recovery assessment. Slight left-hand tremor, refused desk assignment, volunteered for medical escort detail, assigned to planetary medevac ops. She was injured, pulling another soldier out of a burning corridor, took shrapnel to the ribs, and still completed the carry. We didn't realize how bad it was until we saw the blood pool in her armor seal. She never even slowed down. One of the delegates from the Ma'areth cast a flickering gaze toward Elias. "These are not the tales we expect from Apex combatants." "Because we're not Apex anything," Elias said without hesitation. "We bleed, we panic, we cry, some break under pressure." He pointed toward the data. But those who don't, those who get up again, and again, and again, they shift the shape of every battlefield they enter. Another file opened. Subject: Sergeant Marcus Hale. Injury: crushed left foot under atmospheric gear loader, 6 metatarsals shattered. Emergency amputation due to vascular collapse. Underwent osseointegration for prosthetic attachment. Returned to active duty, 13 months later. Assigned to 0G insertion squad, leads rappelling training for amputees. He has pain most days, neuropathic spikes, but he teaches others how to shoot while hanging upside down in vacuum. The Volcran warlord growled. "This is madness. You rearm the broken. Elias met his gaze. We rehabilitate them. No one is forced. But if they choose to come back, we don't stop them. They know what they're risking. A Vitae Inquisitor tilted her head, eye flaring. And what if they're not? Ready? They're never alone. Elias's voice softened for the first time. Recovery is part of the war. We don't treat wounds like shame. Every scar is something that didn't kill us. We have an entire branch dedicated to what happens after the battle ends. He keyed another file. Program HEART, Human Emergency Adaptation and Recovery Task Force. Footage. Humans swimming through gravity assist therapy pools, practicing hand grip strength with prosthetics, running simulated operations in pain, adapted armor. One man laughed through tears as he failed a squat lift, then tried again, and succeeded. Not with ease, not without pain, but he did. This isn't just medicine, it's training, it's mental health support, it's helping people find new versions of themselves when the old version couldn't survive what happened. We can't undo damage. But we can reshape lives around it. One alien, an archivist from the Jixnal cluster, spoke up hesitantly. And this is normal? Elias nodded. We don't idolize suffering, but we respect recovery, and we respect choice. A new image blinked into view. Case, Lieutenant Commander Reed. Injury. Spinal impact from atmospheric re-entry error. Full thoracic paralysis. Forecast. Permanent. Declined mechanical neural interface. Chose ground command track. Now leads logistics and morale operations on refugee extraction fleets. Recorded statement. I may not walk again, but I can move entire planets. That one lingered. Long after the hollow dimmed, the quote hovered like a banner over the chamber. Even the warlords those used to rallying behind might and glory sat contemplative. The Thari moderator whispered to an aide, then turned to the assembly. We speak often of apex species. We judge based on destruction, cunning, dominance, but perhaps we have ignored a trait far rarer. She gestured toward Elias. Resilience. A dozen nods followed. Elias finally closed the case, his voice low. We didn't come to scare anyone. We'd rather not be here at all. But when we are, we finish what we start. Vothranak stood beside him. Now do you understand? These aren't monsters. These aren't machines. These are creatures who survive their own limits then redefine them. And so the Council of 50, orbiting a star nearing its last breath, revised its histories. They still honored the Volcran for their brawn, the Mareth for their intellect, the Dazari for their manipulations. But when it came to fear not the screaming terror of death, but the quiet fear of an enemy who refuses to surrender, who rises from every defeat a little stronger, only one name was etched into the chamber walls. Human. Time passed differently in the falling star chamber. The slowly flickering star beyond the dome, deep amber and rumbling like a dying drum, seemed to beat in time with the hearts of all who sat within. Once loud, once full of overlapping boast and strategy, the hall had fallen to reflective quiet. The vote had shifted. Human now stood beside the apex species in the category of fear, but that single word no longer carried the tone of dread. It carried weight, respect, wariness. Even now, as delegates left the chamber to message their superiors, or reconsider tactical alliances, or simply sit in silence, General Vothranak remained in his seat. Elias Moore stood not far from him, arms crossed, face unreadable. You did not bring weapons, a small voice said. Elias turned. A Lernathi child emissary, a species with rotating representation, where younglings served in observation roles, had approached. Eyes like liquid silver. The council expected weapons, explosions, something to provoke. I brought documents, Elias replied gently. Records, names. Names are more dangerous? To those who believe in nothing, yes. The child tilted its head, blinking slowly. Why do you keep going? If it hurts, if it scars you, why return again and again to war? Elias didn't answer right away. He looked out the wide glass walls, at the distant dark nebulae, the lonely stretch between galaxies. We don't always return. Some of us don't make it back. Some come back changed beyond recognition. Some decide they've done enough. He paused. But when we do go again, it's because something matters enough. To die for? To live through, Elias corrected quietly, even if living through it is the hardest part. The Lernathi stepped back without another word. Maybe that was enough. Behind them, council members began murmuring again. Not the arrogant noise from before, not the amusement that had greeted Vothranek's original claim. This time, the talk had the flavor of caution. Of recalibration. I had thought strength alone would win our borders, said the Volcran warlord to his adjutant. But if what drives them cannot be extinguished, how do we measure victory? A Marath analyst was already dissecting human neural architecture, trying to chart where this relentless adaptation stemmed from. Frustrated, he admitted. They're riddled with chemical inconsistencies, too much cortisol, random hormone storms, memory distortions. Nothing should function this way. But it does, said the archivist beside him. Even the Dizari whisperers remained quiet, processing the raw depth of the human's capacity to resist psychological collapse. For them, it was not a flaw, it was the ultimate firewall. Back at the dais, Elias finally closed the sealed case with a soft click. The lid bore no crest, no identifier, just the faded initials of an old Earth military agency, long folded into something newer. He turned to Vothranek. Will this change anything? The general studied him. Some will dismiss it, say it was a performance. Others will adjust their battle doctrines tonight. A few will lose sleep. But yes, some things will change. Elias nodded. That's enough. The Thari moderator approached then, moving like a silk flag in motionless air. Captain Moore, the council will recommend that human recovery protocols be submitted for diplomatic review. You want the medical files? Yes, your species rehabilitates in ways we have not considered. Elias gave a slow nod. I'll authorize transmission of the non-classified materials. Physical recovery, mental health, team cohesion rituals. You'll find a lot of why in there, not just the how. Will you return to your operation in the Tarvos Drift? She asked. Elias looked away, distracted for a moment. No, my orders changed during the meeting. Something in the Iveron Rim is flaring up, another hostage colony. I'll be embedded again. He didn't sound pleased, just resigned. Vothranek frowned. You're still wounded. My ribs held up. I'll pass the physical. The general grunted, an odd mix of admiration and concern. Humans terrify me more than any enemy I've faced, not because you destroy, but because you endure. There was no pride in Elias's reply. That's not the badge we wanted, but we'll wear it if we must. The room began to dim slightly as the star's outer layers flickered. Delegates took this as the day's end signal. Seats folded into walls. Holograms. Powered down. The ambient hum of the station's life systems returned. As Elias walked toward the exit portal, the crowd parted not from fear, but with the quiet acknowledgement that the paradigm had shifted. Some stepped aside respectfully. Others studied him like a living contradiction. He paused near the doors and turned back once, not to make a speech, not to warn or command. Just one final truth. My species isn't invincible. We break, we bleed, we grieve. But when the moment calls, we stay. That's what terrifies our enemies, not the war. But that we stay after the war and help rebuild the thing we almost died saving. With that, the portal opened. He stepped through. The chamber remained quiet long after he was gone. Vothranek stood slowly and faced the delegates. Now you understand. But, from that day forward, whenever war doctrines were rewritten, whenever psychological resistance studies were drafted, or whenever resilience was debated as a combat factor, human models were included. Not as a warning. Not even as a threat. But as a variable no strategist could afford to ignore. And in that great council chamber orbiting a dying star, the word human was never spoken the same way again.